How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball and welcome back to another review show of the Premier League, where we take a look at our predictions and see the scores and give a bit of a review of the game as well. The scores on the doors at the moment, 161 to 154. And the way the scoring works is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick them once, you cannot pick them again for the rest of the season. It's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. And let's get into the weekend's action, starting off at Molineux. 2-1 to Wolves against Tottenham Hotspur. Both of us going for Tottenham wins. So 0 points on the board for this game. And yeah, kind of like our worst fears realised in this game, to be honest. Started off really well, got a goal, and it looked like Spurs were going to go on and dispel the kind of injuries and really, you know, take 3 points. But after that goal, Spurs just weren't in the game whatsoever. Wolves got those late goals in the stoppage time, but it was deservedly so, wasn't it?
Yeah, Spurs struggled throughout to really impact the game with their ability on the ball. I think Wolves were very aggressive. They were basically making it very difficult for Spurs to, in their build-up play, to build up from the back. And Spurs really struggled to retain the ball, albeit they did have more possession. But a lot of that possession was probably in their own half. When as soon as they got into the middle third or the attacking third, they struggled to put any sort of moves together, albeit they did put one together in the first 3 minutes and it led to a goal. But after that, Wolves really started, I wouldn't say dominate, but I would say they restricted Spurs really well. What I would say is Spurs defended well for most of the game, despite the fact that they had a makeshift defence, and Wolves were putting a lot of pressure on, and Tottenham withstood that pressure for most of the game. But unfortunately, the pressure told late in the game, and 2 goals in the last 6 minutes is really gutting, considering Tottenham have had the week from hell. And then off the back of all those injuries, terrible result against Chelsea, it would have been a perfect tonic just to get a 1-0 scrappy win against Wolves. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be in this one. And not even to get a point is a massive gut punch. So look, still fourth in the league. So it's not horrendous, but the way we played, it doesn't give you confidence going forward about the games coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not the result that worries me. It's the performance, and also looking at the games that we've got coming up. You just can't see a win or points coming in those next 3-4 games. But football is a funny old game, so we'll see how it goes. But let's move on to the North London counterparts, Arsenal, as they beat Burnley by 3-1 at the Emirates. Sim went 5-0, I went 4-0, so we both get a point on the board for this one. It was a bit of a strange game, to be honest, this one. The first half, I thought there were chances at both ends. Arsenal did take the lead right at the end of the first half, and then it kind of was one-way traffic. But then Burnley did get the equaliser in the early stages of the second half, but then Arsenal really did take control. Got the 2 goals. Fabio Vieira gets sent off right at the end with disgusting challenge, to be honest, scraping his studs down. I can't remember who it was, leg, and he got the deserved red card. But look, Arsenal were deserved victors as well in this game.
Yeah, I think when all is said and done, Arsenal dominated the game. They had the most chances and they deserved the 3 points. I think Burnley would take a bit of heart is that they didn't get completely battered, and they were in the game for large parts, equalising, as you said, in the 54th minute. And as well, in the first half, contained Arsenal fairly well. And
they had a couple of chances as well.
And they had a couple of chances, and Trossard scored in what was basically right at the end of the first half. And the goal as well, you've got to be very disappointed if you're Burnley, having held out Arsenal pretty much for the whole half. To concede a goal like that, it was a header in the area, and then Trossard's braver than the keeper, essentially, and ends up getting the header in at the back post, and they end up scoring, and that's got to be very frustrating. But then they equalise on the 54th minute, and they're thinking, I wouldn't say good reward for a performance, but look, they're still in the game. They got the goal, a bit of luck with the deflection, but they only hung on to the lead for 3 minutes. And then Arsenal got the goal from a corner, Saliba, and then Zinchenko followed up not long later, and the game was done pretty much. But Burnley maybe take a bit of heart from a spirited display, but ultimately, again, their poor defence just rearing its ugly head. And I also have got to have questions about the keeper, because he seems very weak, Trafford, I have to say. The amount of times he's conceded weak goals from set pieces now, it's happened a few times this season. And I think for the first 2 goals especially, I don't think he covered himself in any much glory at all. And he's a young keeper, and I think he's showing his age at the moment.
Yeah. Look, I think he will be a good keeper as the years progress. But right now, he's a young keeper in a young team, and look, yeah, like, as you say, he's showing it at the moment. But look, I think in terms of Burnley, this in a funny way was like one of their best, if not their best performance of the season.
especially against a big team. I would say they've had better games against other teams, but against one of the big... look, it's the first time. I mean, Chelsea battered them, Spurs battered them, City battered them at the first day of the season as well. So it's the first time they kind of competed for a bit, but again, they still got undone at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I mean, Arsenal are the real winners of this weekend, with pretty much everyone around them dropping points this weekend. But let's move on to Crystal Palace Everton. It did finish 3-2 to Everton at Selhurst Park. Sim went for 2-1 to Everton, so he gets a point on the board. I went for 0-0, and it was anything but goals galore in this game at Selhurst Park. Everton carrying on their more unbelievable great form. He's really found this kind of trifecta in midfield, Sean Dyche, that is really standing them in good stead. Mikalenko opening the scoring, Eberechi Eze equaling up from the penalty spot 5 minutes later, and then Decore carrying on his great form, getting going 2-1 up. Oddison Edouard with his 6th or 7th goal of the season already, equaling up, and Idrissa Gueye with 4 minutes left of time getting the winner for Everton. And alarm bells for Crystal Palace, but Sean Dyche and Everton going really well at the moment.
Yeah, they're in some really good form, especially away from home, getting some really big results. And I thought they would go to Palace and probably nick a result, and that's what they did. And I think their midfield three at the moment, Onana, Decore, at the moment Garner, but obviously Idrissa Gueye came on and scored, but James Garner as well. They're giving them a really solid base at the moment in the middle with good physicality, but as well Decore is marrying that physicality with, end product at the moment. And I don't know how many goals and assists he's got this season, but he's in really good form so far, and that must be his 4th or 5th goal of the season for Abdoulaye Decore. He's really performing well. They've got the dual threat out wide now of Harrison and McNeil, so that gives them a bit of pace and threat in the wide areas. And we know that they like to get the crosses in. They like to flood the penalty box when they get the opportunity to get in to go to the attack, and they've got physical players, so it's definitely working for them. And then we know Sean Dyche, his team's always going to be very solid defensively, and I know they conceded 2 goals. One of them was a penalty, the other one was Edouard with got a bit of a lucky finish with a cross deflected into his path and end up scoring. But they've been very, very solid defensively, and they found a really good formula away from home to combat these teams, and that's what is giving them life at the moment. And looks like they're going to be streaming away from a relegation battle at the moment. 14th in the league at the moment as we speak. They're 8 points clear of the relegation zone, so it looks like Everton are getting themselves clear sooner rather than later with some really good form.
When you're looking at their team now, not only those midfield three that are playing really well, Jack Harrison, Dwight McNeil, James Tarkowski, Mikalenko, Calvert-Lewin and Decore, you're looking at that team now, and it really is shaping up in the image finally of Sean Dyche, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a proper Sean Dyche team that. You have to say he's really built it to a decent level at the moment, the way they're playing. I still think that in terms of Everton fans being happy with where they are, I think they've got a long way to go, but at least at the beginning of the season, they lost 3 games or 4 in a row, didn't they? And it really looked like he was under serious pressure. So he's turned that around. But again, Everton Football Club are not a club who are just going to be happy with bottom half finishes, are they? They want to be progressing, getting back to where they were maybe 10 years ago now, I would say, under Moyes, where they were consistently battling for European places. So if Sean Dyche can't get them there, then how much of a long-term future he has at Everton, we'll have to wait and see. But he's doing well at the moment, no doubt about it. And especially away from home, they found a really good formula to get wins. Palace, on the other hand, poor defeat home to Everton. Obviously, Olise is coming back, so hopefully that'll give Roy Hodgson some more options. But at the moment, they're not in fantastic form. Only 1 win in their last 5, and another loss at home after losing to Spurs a couple of weeks ago as well. So food for thought at the moment for Hodgson.
Yeah, absolutely. He won't be there after this season for sure. But back on Everton for a second, I mean, what you were saying about, will the Everton fans put up with bottom half finishes? But I think for the last 2 seasons, they've literally avoided the drop on the last day with pitch invasions and stuff like that. And I think this season, they just need to focus on being nowhere near the drop. And I think bottom half finish is completely fine. But if they keep kind of growing on that, I think they will get there under Sean Dyche, and he is getting them better and better.
No, I think this season, I'm not saying they're not going to be happy with this season. If they can just finish in mid-table, that'll be fine. But I'm saying in the long term, is Sean Dyche going to get them back to where they want to be, which is battling for top 7, I guess. We'll have to wait and see.
Didn't he do that with Burnley?
He did one season. They did finish 7th one season, yeah.
All right, let's move on to Old Trafford. Manchester United 1, Luton 0. Sim went for 3-0. I went for 1-0. So 5 points comes my way. 1 point goes Sim's way. And it just kind of panned out exactly how I expected, to be honest. They got the goal in the early stages of the second half. They were the dominant side on the day. They just couldn't really break Luton down and find the back of the net. They were the better team. Credit to Luton for sticking in there and only conceding one goal. But I thought Man United were deserved victors, but it still wasn't a great, and still Man United weren't that great at all.
Yeah, I would say the difference between this game and maybe the other games where they've been less convincing, like maybe Burnley and Sheffield United, was I felt they restricted Luton a lot more in this game. Luton didn't really have too many opportunities. It was all mostly Man United in terms of dominating possession and creating the chances. Højlund definitely should have had at least a goal in the game as well, so he'll be disappointed he still hasn't broken his Premier League duck. But ultimately, it was massive relief when Lindelof scored, because it looked like at that point it could be one of those days for Man United where they could suffer a really embarrassing result, at that point where they were struggling just to get the ball in the back of the net. They were frustrating themselves, but they got the goal. They probably will feel like they should have won by more, to be honest, but they only got the one goal and they saw out a very dogged Luton team. And I think Luton maybe deserve some credit, because even when they lose, lost only 1-0 to Spurs, they lost 1-0 to Man United, they drew at home 1-1 to Liverpool. So even when they play the bigger sides, they're giving them a game and making it a close affair, and that's all they can do with this team they have. So I think they deserve credit, albeit it is another loss, unfortunately, which leaves them in the relegation zone. And at the moment, they're 3 points behind, so they're still playing catch-up. But fair play to them, still made it a very tight game, so it's all they can do at this point.
Yeah, I kind of feel for Luton, because I agree with you. I have been impressed with what I've seen over the last couple of weeks. But to sit there still 3 points behind Bournemouth, who also have been just losing week in, week out, has got to be a bit disheartening for them.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's move on to Bournemouth now, as they had a very impressive victory this weekend at home to Newcastle. 2-0 to Bournemouth at the Vitality. Both of us going for 2-0 to Newcastle. And the injuries really catching up with Newcastle at the moment, as well as taxing performances in Europe for Newcastle. And they played a 17-year-old in midfield, Lewis Miley. They had Anthony Gordon up top, and it was a dreadful performance for Newcastle. It really was. The fans were irate. Trippier had to go over to the fans and explain the performance about how many injuries they had, which I didn't feel that he needed to do that, because if you would have asked a Newcastle fan a couple of years ago, you'll be in the Champions League, you'll be where you are in the league, they would have absolutely bit your hand off for it. And now I feel like they're getting a bit carried away with themselves, Newcastle, the fans, to be honest. And I feel like, yes, it's a poor result away to Bournemouth, and Newcastle shouldn't be losing that. But the fans have, in my opinion, have got to see the bigger picture, and that Newcastle are on the right path. And Kieran Trippier shouldn't have to go over to the fans and have to explain a loss against Bournemouth when literally a week ago they were beating Arsenal at St James's Park. So look, it is a poor result, and credit to Bournemouth. 2 goals for Dominic Solanke, really impressive there. And maybe things are turning around for Bournemouth and Iraola.
Well, yeah, it is 2 wins out of the last 3, so that's definitely a positive turnaround. But we'll have to wait and see if they can keep up at the moment. Very good result. And look, they thoroughly deserved it as well. Really dominant. And if anything, it should have been more, because in the second half, especially when that second goal went in, I think they had about 3 or 4 really good chances, which they weren't able to put away. Some really good chance on the break with Utara and Sinisterra coming off the bench. So they got options all of a sudden, Bournemouth, and that looked very, very promising. From Newcastle's point of view, I definitely have to say it has to be down to injuries, because they were so off the pace in this game. They were completely overrun. Bournemouth's pressing game was really difficult for Newcastle to deal with. And then also they lost Almiron very early on in the game as well. So another injury coming in. They had to start a 17-year-old in central midfield at the beginning of the game, which goes to show their lack of options. And they really struggled to contain Bournemouth, and they also really struggled to make any chances for themselves. It was very disappointing for Newcastle, and I know the Newcastle fans will be disappointed, but look, that's their first loss in 5. They're still, I know they're not doing amazing in the Champions League, but still got a chance to qualify. They're still in and around the top 4 battle. They're 6 points off 4th at the moment, so obviously it's not exactly... They're not miles away, but then obviously their inconsistent form has led to them falling behind a bit. But I guess if you're a Newcastle fan and you're looking for Newcastle to push on from this season and from last season after finishing fourth, very nearly finishing third, maybe you'd be a bit disappointed with their start. But I think if you look at the bigger picture, obviously adding Champions League football into the mix from last season was always going to be a tall order and very hard to deal with. And I think by and large they've done okay this season. Some big wins, especially recently. They were going from some bad form early on, and then they've really turned it around recently. And this is their first real bad loss in a while. So I don't think it's time at the moment for Newcastle fans to start turning on their team. But you have to say, given the injuries they have, it was a very disappointing performance. And, Anthony Gordon couldn't really impact the game playing up front. And so, they got to wish that Wilson and Isaac are back as soon as possible because they need that focal point.
Yeah. You got to think like the Newcastle fans. Do you think they're getting a bit spoiled at the moment with all the good things that they've had coming their way in the last year? Because one bad loss and the fans to get irate. I mean, it seems a bit entitled to me.
Yeah, I think so. Look, maybe Trippier was reacting to only one fan, so maybe it's not fair to paint all Newcastle fans just on that fact. But the fact that Trippier felt the need to go over to the away fans and basically argue with them about why they lost seems a bit peculiar to me, considering the trajectory Newcastle have been on over the last 18 months. And even this season, they've been doing pretty well, especially playing well in some big games. And I know this was a bad loss, but you can see how the injuries are taking their toll on this team, and it was always going to be difficult. And I guess, look, if you're a Newcastle fan, Bournemouth, you've got to be seeing that as definite 3 points, don't you? Considering the form Bournemouth have been in, and the fact that you've lost, and not only lost, you've been well beaten as well. Obviously, you've got to be concerned a bit, but I think Newcastle fans definitely have to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, look, it's a missed opportunity, no doubt about it, because if they win this game, they're 3 points outside the top four. But still, it's only 12 games in, and to be 6 points out the top four, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs from so many different clubs this year. They're still well within their top four is still well within their grasps.
So. What would you say if Newcastle, let's say, crash out of the Champions League group stage and then also, don't finish top six or something? Is Eddie Howe under pressure if that happens?
Look, I don't think he should be judged on his Champions League performance. He was given the group of death anyway, and it was going to be very difficult to come out there. Look what a hard group they got. PSG, Dortmund and Milan for your first year back in the Champions League for a long time. So I don't think he should be judged on the Champions League unless he does well. Only a positive can come from that, in my opinion. And to finish sixth, I don't think he should lose his job for that either, to be honest, because I think that after the job he did last year and to put Champions League football in there, which this squad hasn't had for so many years, I think that you've got to treat this as a process and just keep the building blocks going. I think Eddie Howe's the right man for the job, 100%. They're in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. FA Cup hasn't started yet. So there's a lot of reasons to be excited for Newcastle. And even if they're just in the Europa League next year, that's a competition that they could seriously win. So I don't think that that Newcastle fans should get the hump with Eddie Howe if they finish sixth.
I agree, and I think Newcastle fans got to remember they're well ahead of where they should be. No one expected them to be in the Champions League this season. They haven't even been. They jumped the stage where you get to Europa League and then Champions League. They're straight into the Champions League. So I think they got to realise where they are.
Yeah. Villa against Fulham next. 3-1 to Villa. Sim went for 3-0. I went for 3-1. That Fulham consolation goal with about 20 minutes to go really giving me the 5 points and taking the 5 points away from Sim, but Sim does get 1 point. But look, I think this game was pretty much how we expected it to go. Very dominant performance from Aston Villa. Fulham getting that consolation with about 20 minutes to go, and even had another goal after that ruled out. But look, Villa at home carrying on that strong home performance.
Yeah, I think of how many wins in a row that is at now at home. I think it must be about 13 wins at home now. In a row for Aston Villa. They're going unbelievably at Villa Park. So impressive for them. And it made it look easy again against the Fulham side, who are really struggling for form at the moment and for goals and for points, to be honest. Very easy win. A really nice goal from John McGinn in there as well. And obviously Ollie Watkins carrying on his good season. The only down block was they didn't keep the clean sheet, which probably they should have, considering how the game went. But look, to be fair,
that wasn't a down block. That was a good mark.
It was a down block.
That was a good mark.
No, they should be fed the right act after that. And Villa now, look, fifth. They're on 25 points, only 3 points off first place. Yeah. Maybe not enough is being made out of how impressive their form is at the moment, considering You know, a lot of people have been saying a lot about about Spurs specifically and other teams, but you know, Villa deserve their props. They're definitely in there. They're definitely putting themselves in that top 4 race, front and center, to be honest, with the way they're playing, especially top 5, and so doing very, very well. But from Fulham's point of view, look, are they starting to get dragged into that relegation battle now? Because we were talking about them before. I think earlier in the season, they picked up some good results, like a 2-2 draw away at Aston and stuff, and they were doing all right. But look, 12 points. I mean, they're still 6 points clear of the relegation zone, but they are falling further and further down, aren't they? And they're getting dragged into it. Yeah. They're dragged further away from mid-table into that relegation battle. And considering their front line, I mean, to be fair, you could say the same about potentially Luton, Sheffield United and Burnley, but I'm just looking at their team, I'm like, apart from João Palhinha, do they have a team there who's going to consistently be getting goals for them to drag them out? I mean, I can really see them being dragged into it.
Look, I think they're going to struggle against the majority of teams this season, but I just feel like they're going to have enough against those relegation teams, against those Burnleys, against those Sheffield Uniteds and potentially Luton and Bournemouth as well. I think they will have enough to go and beat those teams, and I think those games are going to be the ones that save them from the drop.
I think it's going to be tight. I don't know. I'm really struggling to see it, but at least Jimenez got his first goal. So
is that only his first goal?
Yeah, it's his first goal for Fulham. So
I thought he scored before that.
I don't think so. Did he? I don't think so. I think Proussard's his first goal. Pretty
Interesting.
sure.
Maybe he scored in the cup or something.
Maybe he scored in the cup. I'm pretty certain it's his first goal in the Premier League anyway.
Yeah, you're right. First goal.
So that'll be that. Maybe that can give him a bit of a boost in terms of breaking that duck. But they're just so severely lacking goals. I think that's how many goals? 10 goals this season for them. Only Burnley, who have scored 9 in the first 12 games, have less. And we're talking about, you know, players missing their talisman. We'll know Palace missing Zaha, but I don't think anyone misses a player like Fulham miss Mitrovic.
Oh. We said it, didn't we? Yeah. When they sold him, like, this is literally a really bad move. Can you imagine if they sold Palhinha as well?
Oh my god!
If they sold Palhinha as well, they would be they would be favourites for the drop, because that is probably a championship quality team without Palhinha in it, because he's so good.
Even if they had like a Solanke, who Bournemouth have, I would say, okay, I can see something there. But right now, I think they're going to be in a relegation battle. I really do.
All right, let's move on to Brighton against Sheffield United. 1-1 at the Amex. Sim went 1-0. I went 3-0, both to Brighton. And what is going on at Brighton at the moment? They just can't seem to get any points on the board at the moment. 1-1 at home to Sheffield United. That's got to be a big cause for concern for Brighton. They do have their problems going into it. De Zerbi completely switched it up in this game, and it just didn't seem to work. Adingra did score in the opening stages of the game, and you're thinking, all right, Brighton, with the changes De Zerbi made, it's going to stand them in good stead. But halfway through the second half, Dahoud gets sent off for a straight red. And then Webster scores an own goal with 15 minutes to go, and Brighton just couldn't get that winner.
And they haven't won in the Premier League since the 24th of September.
Wow.
So they're really on bad form. And their form since then is a 6-1 loss to Aston Villa away. They've drawn at home to Liverpool 2-2. Lost away to Man City 2-1, but then drew at home to Fulham 1-1, drew away at Everton 1-1, and now drawn at home to Sheffield United 1-1. So it's not exactly games where you're thinking, they've been so tough. You know, these are games where you think Brighton should really be getting at least like 7 points or so in those games. But the fact they've only got 3 points out of those 3 games, drawing at home 1-1 Sheffield United and Fulham, that's very, very concerning, considering this is supposed to be a free-flowing team, you know, very attacking football, and they've got 2 goals in 2 home games in Sheffield United and Fulham. Very, very disappointing for them. And that's probably, look, to be fair, they're doing well in Europa League. I think they're probably going to make it through the group stage at the moment. And for a team like Brighton, again, a bit similar to Newcastle, I think they've got to realise where they are, because last season no one expected them to get European football. They came from nowhere to get European football. And this season, again, they're 8th in the league, so not horrific, and they're going well in Europa League. If they make a good run in the Europa League, that's a great season for them, especially, you know, I think all of a sudden we see Brighton like this great attacking team who should be like used to European football, but it's nowhere near the case. They're doing amazingly to be where they are, considering like their budgets and the size of their club. So I think they're doing all right, but I mean their form has to be a bit of a concern.
Look, I think the form is a concern, but I think the Brighton fans and everyone else need to just put everything into perspective, because they're 8th in the league. They're only a point behind Newcastle. Like, it's really not that bad at all. If you would have asked Brighton what's a good season, where they're going to finish this season, they'll say anywhere between 6th and 8th. And that's where they are at the moment. I think the great form that they had at the start of the season is really getting them out of a bit of trouble at the moment. And look, they've got injuries. I don't know what happened to Evan Ferguson this week. Was he injured? He just wasn't anywhere near the squad because there was no talk of him being injured or anything like that. But
a bit of bitterness coming out there.
But look, to be 8th in the league, not that it's only 7 points outside the top 4. So I don't think it's too bad.
No, it's not too bad. But defensive wise, only 4 teams have conceded more than Brighton at the moment in the Premier League. That's got to be a massive concern. But to be fair, they probably would have won the game if they didn't get that late red card, and it shifted momentum. Sheffield United, they got the own goal, and that's it's a great point for Sheffield United, who are now unbeaten in 2 following their first win of the season against Wolves last week. So maybe light at the end of the tunnel, Sheffield United, but I wouldn't get too excited just yet, just off the back of these 2 results. They need to start getting a few more before they start showing their safety credentials, I guess.
Yeah. Liverpool against Brentford up next, finished 3-0 to Liverpool at Anfield. Sim went 2-1. I went 3-1, so we both get a point on the board. I think it was really dominant for Liverpool, to be honest, until they got their 3rd goal, and then Brentford started to make a late rally for it. But Mo Salah carrying on his absolutely firing form into the season, showing his world-class ability. And it was a much-deserved victory for Liverpool, albeit Brentford should have scored at the end.
Yeah, I think as well, Mbeumo had a really good chance in the first half on the counter to maybe put Brentford 1-0 up, but didn't take it. But Liverpool, again, they make it look so easy. Brentford at home is not an easy game against a really solid, well-organised team who are not in European football, so they've got the whole week to plan for this game. Liverpool, on the other hand, had European. They lost in midweek to Toulouse, so they had that game, and then they had come up against this game. So maybe could have been some tired legs, but they made easy light work of this Brentford team, and that for me just goes to show. This Liverpool team this season are just a different animal to last season, and very, very impressive victory. I think their front line again showing it's how explosive it is with the goals they scored. Jota on the score sheet, Salah on the score sheet with 2 as well. Nunez, I think, had about 4 shots on target as well. He was like absolutely everywhere.
That guy is literally the opposite of clinical.
Yeah,
literally the opposite.
But no, what I would say is it's true. He's not clinical, but because of his physicality, he just gets himself so many chances per game.
Yeah, that he misses.
But once he starts, first of all, I think his goal return isn't terrible this season. Maybe his goal contribution.
I would love to see how underperforming he is of his XG.
He got a nice assist for Salah's first goal to open the scoring as well. I think he's doing a good job personally. I know he has a few misses, but I personally do.
Is an understatement.
He misses a few chances, but I think he's doing a really good job at the moment. He's still young. He's still 23. I think once he starts to put a few chances, he's put a few away. I think he's going to get a lot of goals this season. I really do. I'm a big fan.
How many is he on?
I don't know. How many is he on? In the Premier League?
Yeah.
He is on, I can tell you, 4 goals in the Premier League. He's got 4 goals and 6 assists. So
how many open goals has he missed, though?
Yeah, he missed 1 against Luton, didn't he? And he missed
he missed a few against Luton, not just 1.
Yeah, but he's got 10 goal contributions this season. That's not to be sniffed at. So I think he's doing a good job. He's so physical as well, so hard to deal with. He gets chances against anyone. So I thought he really gave the Brentford backline a real torrid time. Endo had a decent game as well. So maybe playing him in the number 6 more consistently is going to give them a bit more balance. And I thought they made light work of a really solid Brentford team who were in really good form as well. So I think really impressive victory for Liverpool. And I know they drew, was it last week to Luton, but they're back into 2nd place, 1 point behind City. Yeah,
they must be kicking themselves for that draw against Luton last week. They'll be sitting top of the league right now.
Yeah.
But not to be, and an impressive victory for Liverpool, that's for sure. But let's go over to the London Stadium. 3-2 to West Ham against Nottingham Forest. Sim went 1-1. I went 2-1 to West Ham, so I gain a point for this one. And it was a really good game of football, to be fair. Really good game. I think Lucas Paqueta puts West Ham 1-0 up with a really nice finish from outside the box. Awani back in the goals just before half-time to level it up. Then Alanga scores a really good goal just after the break, half an hour to go. Jarrod Bowen carrying on his firing form, levelling it up. And then Thomas Souček getting a nice clutch goal for West Ham right at the end of the game. And West Ham win this game. And, the way this game was going, West Ham fans must have been thinking, are we doing this again? Because how many times in recent weeks have they looked like to be getting all 3 points and playing well and just not getting those points on the board? And it looked like this was happening all over again against this Nottingham Forest side. But luckily for them, they get that goal right at the end.
Yeah, and it was pretty much the opposite of what happened at Brentford last week, where they were very much in their game, and Brentford ended up getting the late winner. This time, West Ham were the beneficiaries of a late run. And to be fair, I thought Nottingham Forest were probably well worth something out of the game when you take the whole game into account. I thought they gifted Paqueta that first goal, albeit it was a really good finish from outside the box, but a really bad mistake gifting them the goal. And then they did really well to turn it around. Good, nice counter-attack for Awione's goal, and then a really good goal for Elanga, a really good team goal. And at that point, West Ham had kind of huffed and puffed, not really done much in the game. And you're thinking, it looks like they're going to go another game without a win, because I think they've already gone. This is off the back of 3 consecutive losses in the Premier League. So you're thinking, okay, their bad form is going to continue. Maybe the tired legs as well from European football in midweek is going to play a part. But to be fair, I think they equalised fairly quickly after going down, and a very unlike Bowen goal, a header from a corner, which you don't really associate from Bowen, and really poor goalkeeping, I felt, because I thought it was right under his nose. He probably should have got there ahead of Bowen. And then another goal from a corner for Souček late on, and a really good win. And I think at the end, to be fair, their late rally, I think, deserved something out of the game. And I think Ward-Prowse, brilliant set pieces again, 2 assists on the day, another top display from James Ward-Prowse. And he said after the game, or maybe even last week, but he said he's kind of upset that he's not in the England squad. And with the form he's in this season,
did he not get called up again?
Yeah, he didn't get called up again.
That's
and
ridiculous.
He's had a brilliant season so far. So I feel for him. But they needed this win, West Ham, because 3 losses in a row couldn't really afford to have another one. And into 9th place now.
And let me guess, Jordan Henderson got called up again.
He did.
Yeah, of course.
Jordan
Southgate ball coming. But let's go on to the last game of the weekend and the best one of the season, in my opinion. Chelsea 4, Manchester City 4. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-0 to Man City. So Sim gets a point. I get 0 points. And what a game of football this was. Erling Haaland from the spot, 25 minutes gone. And then Chelsea turn it around before half-time with Raheem Sterling and Thiago Silva. Erling Haaland gets another one. Akanji gets one to level it up just before the break. And then Erling Haaland. And then Nicholas Jackson. And then Rodri. And then Cole Palmer. You thought when Rodri scored, it was another one of those really big clutch goals to give Man City all 3 points. But Cole Palmer and Raheem Sterling coming back to haunt Man City. And after the game, Pep said, it doesn't matter, I don't care about selling players to rivals and all that kind of stuff. And look, I think Man City were probably the better team just about on the day, but I think a draw was a very much a fair result. It was a really good competitive game of football, the best I've seen this season. Pochettino was so irate at the end of the game that the game stopped when it did. But you're looking at Chelsea now. We've been speaking a lot about Chelsea all season. Are they in crisis? Are they not? And I think Pochettino is starting to get a tune out of them now. And you're looking at them in terms of the big games that they've played this season. Draw against Liverpool, draw against Arsenal. They've beaten Spurs 4-1, now draw against Man City. So when the big games come around, they really are putting in the performances.
Yeah, so I thought they were going to put in a performance in this game, and that they did. They were absolutely excellent. I thought they were better in the first half than they were in the second half. I have to say, first half they were really difficult for City to deal with. Their pressure and their intensity was top notch. They were getting so close to the City players and nicking the ball in really dangerous areas. City actually really struggled to deal with it, even though Man City went 1-0 up. I think when Chelsea turned it on, they were almost a nightmare to deal with. Palmer buzzing around. There was Raheem Sterling running in behind and causing real trouble with his pressing. Reece James was causing all sorts of problems on the right-hand side. Caicedo and Enzo were dominating in the centre of midfield as well. Man City just really struggled to contain this this Chelsea frontline, this very exuberant Chelsea team. And I think they probably would have deserved to go in at half-time in the lead, to be honest. But that Akanji goal right at the end of the first half made it 2-2, and maybe gave more of a springboard for Man City to build on the second half. And I actually think City kind of controlled things by and large in that second half. I think whereas Chelsea in that first half were very much more of a unit and they were hounding Man City into oblivion, second half they had more moments and they did about maybe control of the dominance of the game. I think Man City were very much in control of that second half. Obviously went 3-2 up and then were definitely in control, but Palmer had that amazing run where he beat like 3 players. That would have been goal of the season if he would have scored that. He beat like 3 players, danced into the box and nearly scored. And then obviously a mistake from Edison allows Nick Jackson to make it 3-3. But then Man City regain control. Rodri scores a deflection. And I think that'll probably be reward for their control in the second half. But look, they're very, very late on. They get another penalty. They get a penalty. Chelsea, and Palmer puts it away. And I think on the balance of play, they deserve the draw. But based on the second half, I don't think Chelsea were as good. But they made most of their moments that they did create in that second half, and I think deservedly got a draw. And I think they're showing signs of the quality of this young Chelsea team, that they've built at the beginning of the season. A lot of people are questioning it. I'm still questioning this season, what they can achieve. But in terms of where this young Chelsea team can go, I mean, you look at how they perform against the better teams. There's a lot of quality there. You can't deny it.
Yeah, and it's kind of confirming my thoughts of what I've thought of Chelsea all season, to be honest. Yeah, they weren't getting the results earlier on in the season, and I think they just needed to kind of get to grips with the way Pochettino wanted to play. I think first halves have always looked good pretty much for Chelsea this season, but they needed to figure out a way of how to up their fitness and last longer in games, which they're starting to do now, but there's still a long way to go for this Chelsea team for sure. But I have no doubt that maybe not this season, but next season, they'll be one of the top teams in the Premier League, in my opinion. But look, 4-4 at home to Man City. Really good result for Chelsea. Not such a great result for Manchester City. And I love that shithousery by Cole Palmer and the Man City team during the game where, they're all discussing where to place this free kick with Jack Grealish and Erling Haaland and some other Man City players in there as well. And Jack Grealish is just shouting at him and Erling Haaland's pushing him away. And I just thought it was really nice to see that.
Yeah, classic shithousery. But in terms of City, does keep them top still after 12 games, albeit there's only 3 points between first and fifth. I can't remember a time where, even at this stage, the title race has been that tight between 5 different teams after 12 games. So, I mean, Villa could be top in a week. Who knows where this is going at the moment? Obviously, Man City is still going to be massive favourites, but it's set up for to be a very, very close race.
Yeah, definitely. And the star men, both of us drew blanks this week, with Sim going for Bruno Fernandes, who did nothing against Luton, and I went for Evan Ferguson, who didn't even get on the pitch, didn't even get on the bench, which I didn't know why. No explanation has been given. But look, we finished off all square this week going into international break. And all square, Sim.
Tight game. Yeah, look, it's tight as ever, but I'm going to pull away from starting from next week after. I got to look.
You did pull away.
Things.
You did pull away.
Reshuffle things after international break. I've got some ideas up my sleeve, so some results to pull out the bag. You bet.
All right. Overthinking it once again is my brother.
Never.
But thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you all next time. Have a good day.